3:42 in the afternoon. September 17, 2025. The Taiwan Strait. A Chinese Type 052D destroyer suddenly breaks formation and swings aggressively. This isn't normal positioning. This isn't escort behavior. It's a direct move toward the USS Higgins, a U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke class destroyer legally operating east of the Taiwan median line under a freedom of navigation mission. No radio warning. No signal. None is offered. Inside the combat center, an alert cuts through the comm. Target maneuvering. Course crossing. Closest approach, less than 200 yards. That distance is critical. At sea, 200 yards between two warships isn't proximity. It's a threat. The Higgins immediately tries to establish contact, bridge to bridge. English first, then Mandarin. No response. The Chinese ship continues its run. Its bow is locked onto the Higgins, closing fast at over 25 knots, nearly 30 miles per hour, carried by a 7,500-ton hull built for combat, anti-submarine warfare, missile defense, and, if ordered, physical collision. Every movement is tracked by the Higgins sensors: speed, heading, angle of approach. But what unsettles the bridge crew isn't the data. It's the absence of communication. No warnings. No coordination. No room to maneuver. This isn't monitoring. This isn't an accident. This is pressure testing, measuring how far China can push the U.S. Navy before a line is crossed. And if that calculation fails, this won't stay contained. It will go global. Because in these waters, when steel closes this tight, there are no harmless encounters. At 3:43 p.m., the radar makes it undeniable. The Chinese destroyer isn't merely closing distance anymore. It's picking up speed. Data from the SPY 6 shows a rapid surge, from 21 knots to more than 25 in less than half a minute. That's not routine movement. That's an intercept run. The ship isn't drifting off course. It's cutting a new line straight toward the Higgins' starboard side. The bridge announces the numbers as they update. CPA now 185 yards. 2 minutes to closest approach. CPA, closest point of approach. If that value drops to 0, steel meets steel. At this speed, there's no space for misreading intent or making a single wrong call. Another bridge-to-bridge transmission goes out. Clear, controlled, professional, unidentified Chinese naval vessel. This is a United States warship conducting lawful transit. Alter course immediately. Silence. They repeat the message in Mandarin. Still nothing. Inside the Higgins, the atmosphere stays steady, but charged. Everyone on board understands what's happening. This isn't accidental navigation. It's purposeful. And at sea, refusing to answer isn't uncertainty, it's a statement. In the Combat Information Center, the contact is formally identified. Track Zera 052. Classification, Type 052D, Luoyang 3 class, People's Republic of China Navy. This isn't a minor escort ship. The Type 052D carries long-range HHQ, 9 air defense missiles, a 130mm main gun, YJ, 18 anti-ship missiles, and a modern combat radar suite. It's the backbone of China's surface fleet, and in tight waters, it's a serious threat. But the Higgins doesn't yield. Her 5-inch gun shifts slightly, just enough for the approaching ship to notice. The weapon isn't loaded. It doesn't have to be. The message is clear. In the CIC, every second is recorded. Every course change. Every increase in speed. Nothing is missed. The USS Higgins stays steady on her course. No sudden turns. No evasive action. Not yet. Because backing off now would mean surrendering control of the moment. And more than that, it would set a dangerous example. This isn't just a tense encounter between two warships. It's China wagering that the United States won't push back hard enough to risk escalation. And the Higgins is answering that gamble, calmly, deliberately, one radar return at a time. At 3:44 p.m., the Higgins crosses a threshold, not on the water, but in procedure. Inside the Combat Information Center, the assessment is confirmed. The approach vector hasn't changed. The course remains an intercept. No adjustment. No radio response. The intent is clear. The crew doesn't hesitate or wait for outside approval. They move by doctrine. Every U.S. Navy destroyer operates under clearly defined rules of engagement, ROE. These aren't suggestions. They're legal limits governing the use of force. Step 1. Document everything. Fire control radar begins capturing the Chinese ship's speed, bearing, and approach angle at 10-second intervals. Bridge logs are time-stamped. Voice recordings secured. Radar images locked in place. If this turns into a confrontation, evidence matters as much as steel. Step 2. Show readiness without crossing the line. The Higgins Mark 45 5-inch gun slowly pivots toward the approaching destroyer. The movement is controlled and deliberate, impossible to miss, yet not aggressive. Step 3. Engage non-kinetic defenses. The SLQ-32V-7 electronic warfare system comes online. Its role is detection and analysis, not attack. Within moments, it identifies a narrowband surface search radar signal. The signature confirms it. Frequency and pulse pattern match. The Chinese destroyer is actively scanning the Higgins. This isn't passive awareness. It's targeting. Still, the airwaves remain silent. No replies. No signals. No change in course. The watch officer on the Higgins finally puts words to what everyone already knows. They're tracking us, but they refuse to communicate. Inside the CIC, the pressure is thick, but control never slips. No shouting. No chaos. Just trained sailors moving with purpose. The helm holds course without deviation. Engineering keeps speed locked. Fire control teams calculate firing solutions, then freeze them, ready but restrained. Because the next move would raise the stakes, and no one on board is looking for that outcome. Still, the message is unmistakable. If the Chinese destroyer pushes any further, the Higgins is prepared to respond. For now, the two warships are locked in a silent contest of nerve. A dangerous standoff where the outcome isn't decided by a sudden turn, but by resolve, planning, and who breaks first. At 3:45 p.m., the pressure shifts. From the aft flight deck of the Higgins, an MH-60 or Seahawk, call sign Romeo, 52, spools up. Rotor wash blasts across the stern as the helicopter lifts off. No weapons on board. No aggressive flyby planned. This isn't an attack. It's a message. The Seahawk rises to roughly 200 feet, and its FLIR system comes online. Forward-looking infrared sensors begin sweeping the Chinese ship, its bridge, exhaust stacks, radar arrays, and exposed crew positions, quietly watching, recording, and reminding everyone involved that nothing here is unseen. Inside the helicopter cockpit, the sensor operator locks the image steady. Every heat signature, every small movement, every illuminated panel is captured and stored. On the Chinese destroyer, individual crew members are now clearly visible. They're wearing helmets. At least 2 sailors stand near the forward gun mount. They aren't aiming. They aren't moving. They're waiting. The second crew member in the Seahawk centers a camera on the destroyer's bridge. The footage is automatically tagged with location data and timestamps, then streamed directly into the Higgins combat network. If China later challenges the sequence of events, the response will be undeniable, high-resolution evidence, frame by frame. This is a confrontation without gunfire, but no less dangerous. A standoff defined by positioning, altitude, and intent, not shots fired. At 3:46 p.m., the tension peaks in the most unsettling way. Nothing changes. The Chinese destroyer neither slows nor turns. Radio silence continues. Sunlight glints off the bridge windows. No signal flags. No flashing lights. No acknowledgement of any kind. On deck, the 2 crew members remain still beside the Type HBJ 38 130mm naval gun. The weapon isn't crude. Not yet. But its protective covers have been removed. Back on the Higgins, command weighs its options. Do they maintain a parallel track and continue shadowing? That choice lowers immediate aggression, but invites prolonged pressure. Or do they hold course and drive straight through? That move projects resolve, but sharply raises the risk. Inside the CIC, the decision matrix comes alive. Every possible outcome is weighed in real time. Collision probability, high. Risk of escalation, real, but contained. From a legal standpoint, the situation is solid. The U.S. warship is operating in international waters, more than 18 nautical miles from the nearest claimed baseline. Every action taken so far is fully compliant with maritime law. Still, the Chinese destroyer keeps closing, silent and deliberate. Above them, the Seahawk maintains a slow orbit. Its infrared sensors pick up subtle shifts, small movements that don't make the situation safer. Down below, sailors in the engine room brace. Lookouts along the starboard rail adjust their footing. Inside the Higgins, the quiet grows heavier. No alarms, no warning tones, just the constant electronic hum and the pressure building with every second. Then another update from the CIC. Contact steady. CPA now below 150 yards. 1 minute to convergence. At this point, there's no easy exit. The Higgins either stays the course or establishes a precedent the U.S. Navy will carry forward. This has moved beyond a close encounter. It's a high-speed chess match played at nearly 30 knots, and everyone is waiting for the next decision. At 3:47 p.m., the Chinese ship makes it. A change. The bow shifts slightly, less than 5 degrees to starboard. Almost imperceptible, but it's enough. Enough to break a direct collision path. Enough for radar to catch it. Enough to show the calculation is complete. Speed begins to fall, from 26 knots down to 23, then 21, and it stabilizes. The signal is unmistakable. They want the moment to feel dangerous, but not disastrous. Moments later, the bridge speakers come alive. A transmission finally breaks the silence. The voice is processed and emotionless, speaking in Mandarin. United States naval vessel, you are operating in a Chinese-administered maritime area. Change course immediately. The tone is official, controlled, not a threat, just the statement Beijing wants preserved on record. The reply from the Higgins is immediate, measured, precise, broadcast openly. This is a United States warship conducting lawful transit in international waters. Your unsafe actions are being recorded and reported. In other words, we're staying right where we are, and we're not intimidated by formal protests. Above them, the Seahawk continues to orbit, capturing audio, imagery, and radar activity. On the Chinese destroyer, deck personnel step back from the main gun. One sailor raises both arms, palms out, gesturing toward the Higgins. A universal maritime signal, we're disengaging. But they aren't pulling away. They're adjusting position, reducing speed, easing the moment, stretching the encounter without ending it. Both ships remain locked on radar. Both remain fully prepared. Yet the immediate danger begins to fade. This isn't capitulation. It's theater. A carefully staged exchange meant for domestic audiences, international observers, and every satellite watching from above. And the Higgins? She doesn't deviate. Still armed. Still documenting. Still alert. Because in these waters, a single encounter is never the conclusion. It's the opening move in a much larger contest. What unfolded in the Taiwan Strait wasn't just a close call. What happened wasn't an isolated incident. It was another step in a long, carefully planned campaign. For months now, China has been probing limits, on the water and through diplomacy. U.S. Navy patrols are tailed. Japanese destroyers are pressed uncomfortably close. Australian aircraft are pushed into evasive maneuvers. From the South China Sea to the East China Sea, and now the Taiwan Strait, the method is consistent. Close the distance. Apply pressure. Keep everything wrapped in a legal-looking frame. The objective is straightforward. Exhaust Western responses over time. Normalize aggressive behavior. Turn confrontations into routine interactions. So when a genuine crisis finally erupts, the boundary between acceptable and unacceptable is already blurred. This isn't speculation. It's a strategy on record. Chinese naval thinking increasingly relies on what's known as gray zone operations, military actions that stay just short of open conflict. No shots fired. No declarations of war. Just calculated proximity and sustained intimidation. And the tempo is increasing. In August 2025, the British destroyer HMS Richmond was operating near the Spratly Islands when a Chinese frigate executed a nearly identical maneuver. Shipboard cameras captured the moment, the turn, the radio silence, and the scripted exchange that followed. A month earlier, a Japanese P-1 maritime patrol aircraft was forced off its route after a Chinese J-11 fighter buzzed it in international airspace near the Senkaku Islands. Tokyo issued a formal protest. Beijing never responded. The U.S. Navy is well aware of this pattern. That's why every ship like the Higgins sails fully equipped, with advanced surveillance systems, legal advisors at the ready, and helicopters outfitted with high-resolution cameras and electronic detection gear. Because these encounters aren't just about protecting shipping lanes. They're about controlling the story. If the US can show it acted strictly within international law, it scores the diplomatic point. If China can catch a mistake on camera, they get the narrative spin they want. So no, what unfolded in the Taiwan Strait wasn't accidental. It was a carefully measured display of pressure. And this time, both sides pulled back without incident. But here's the question for you. Should the US respond more aggressively in these standoffs, or is maintaining calm the smarter long-term strategy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. Thanks for watching. If you found this deep dive into real-world naval standoffs interesting, hit like and subscribe to stay up to date. And if you want to go further, join the fleet. By joining, you'll get loyalty badges, faster replies, and help us bring more real maritime stories like this one to the surface. Just head to our channel page, click join, and come aboard. And remember, if you're thinking of playing chicken with a US Navy destroyer, you'd better show up with more than empty threats and silence. See you in the next video.